Ladies and gentlemen, Big Terror News.
Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hearing News. Kia ora, Sunita.
Oh, kia ora.
How you doing, man?
Oh, it's freezing, man. Taranaki is cold today.
They're talking about snow down here overnight and tomorrow, but only to like 300 metres. So, yeah, we're Dunedin, so we won't. We probably won't see any of it, but it's around. So there's a chill in the air. Were you just here? Were you? What were we doing in Dunedin?
I came to watch Jesus Christ Superstar.
Jesus Christ at the Regent, yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to find someone to go with. I didn't realise you were down there, so I would have asked you to come.
We could have had a date, mate. It would have been good. Yeah, I love Jesus Christ Superstar. I've seen that numerous times. Never done it, but seen it lots of times. I went through high school right at that period where all of those were sort of all those ones were coming into the high school. We did Godspell and Hair and all these ones that are all sort of the right around the same time period. But we never did that one. But I've seen it several times. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
So co-host tonight, Sunita Torrance, friend of the show. Whānau know Sunita from our conversations around Destiny Church attacking. I don't know. We'll talk more about whether it is an attack or an attack. You know, drag queen story time. I always get those 4 syllables. Drag queen story time. And Sunita is the individual who is in the process, I guess, of suing Brian Tamaki or part of it for a couple of mil. So we want to enjoy our guests' expertise. So we'll have a look at that tonight, get a bit of an update, have a bit of chat about it, and we will also there's a new series of what's the name of the series with John Campbell? What's it called?
Oh, Under His Command.
Under His Command.
Yeah.
Series 2.
It's on TV and Command, yeah.
Yeah, and there's an episode, I think it might be episode 3 of that series that features you and focuses on Brian Tamaki and Destiny Church and what they're doing and saying around not just drag queens, but I guess the LGBT community in general, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that'll be one of our stories tonight. Also, we'll have a bit of a chat about the retirement age rising to 72. And there's a couple of other things as well. To be honest with you, I made the show up this afternoon with a couple of ideas around what to get off the news tonight. And there hasn't been a lot of video out there on some of these things, but we always add new things in. We didn't talk about this yesterday, but speaking of John Jay, who we were just talking about, he had a crack, maybe not at, maybe with, whatever, the Prime Minister yesterday on breakfast, and we never really featured it. So we might have a look at that tonight as well, because that was fire, and it was fireworks, and it was fire as well. So I don't know. We'll see how we go through the night. We'll see what we'll end up doing. And yeah, as always, you're welcome to jump in and contribute or through the chat or the email, which I try and remember is mail@bhn.nz. There you go. Got there. Or you can just text Sunita. You know, just send her a message and she'll pass it on. That's fine. I'm sure, eh? Yeah, there you go. Easy. Okay, one of the things, and this is a little bit in tribute for our wee Wookie, who as we speak will be on a big bird coming back to New Zealand from the UK, is that each time we speak to a union, whether it's the NZNO, Nurses Organisation, or whether it's the NZEI, or whether it's the salaried medical professionals, or whoever it is, at some stage during the conversation interview, Tribby will start slamming his hands on the table like this and go, general strike. And I don't know, we'll find out shortly if this is a general strike, but as Stuff is reporting it, a massive strike. As this arose by any other name would still smell as sweet, calling it a massive strike and not a general strike. But stuff is saying a massive strike could hit schools, hospitals, health services, all on the same day. Now, is that just a coincidence? In fact, last time we had, I think, the PPT on, we kind of said to our guest, when you're deciding your plans, do you kind of go to a cafe and just by chance the nurses union are sitting at the next table, and then by chance, and he kind of laughed and said, officially no. So where are we at with that? What we thought we'd do is we'd get on the National Secretary for the PSA, Fleur Fitzsimons, and Fleur can tell us all about it, give us all the goss. Fleur, welcome to the show.
Good evening.
Good evening. You heard that whole intro?
I did.
It can't be a general strike because, the police aren't there and that. But is this kind of as close to a general strike as we've heard of or seen?
Yes, I think it will be historic. There will be thousands of workers all over New Zealand taking strike action in support of their bargaining, because we're just not seeing bargaining offers at the table that keep pace with the cost of living or deliver important things our health service needs, like safe staffing levels and full rosters. And that's really what you're seeing, is a whole bunch of collective bargaining not delivering for different groups of workers and different unions. And that's leading to this historic strike that may take place on the 23rd of October.
It kind of, on some level, I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs from the Stuff article, it kind of feels like eventually enough of the little guys get gumption up to pick on the bully. You get enough of a crew together to go and do the bully over. But 2 paragraphs from this article, the 4 unions who had confirmed they were planning to participate in the coordinated strike were PSA, 2 teachers' unions, and the New Zealand Nurses Organisation. But on Tuesday, Council of Trade Union President Richard Wagstaff told Stuff he knew other unions were also considering joining the strike. Why are you actually doing it all together? What's the need for it to be a kind of consolidated front as opposed to that union doing that and that union doing that? What's it all about?
Well, we've seen a lot of strike action recently because this government's made a choice to value landlords and tax cuts at the expense of public services that all New Zealanders rely on. And in response to that, workers are flexing their industrial muscle. We've seen strike action throughout the public service. The nurses have taken a lot of strike action in the health system, so have the salaried medical specialists. And it really all boils down to workers not getting their fair share in a cost of living crisis. And it's not surprising to me that given the choices the government have made, workers are flexing their muscle and saying, we want a better health service. We know New Zealanders need it. It's not delivering for people who rely on it. And we need to be able to pay our own bills and support our own families. And that's not able to happen with the current pay offers on the table. So it's really down to the choice the government's made, I think, to value landlords and tax cuts over public services that we all need.
Yeah. Hey, Sunita, we kind of work, both you and I have a kind of work in our own line of business, our own businesses, that sort of thing as well. I don't know if unions are much to do with your world and what you do, but obviously unions are a part of, a valuable part of society because they look after groups of people that we need desperately. What are your thoughts around what you're hearing to do with, it can be anything actually, to do with this this plan or how the government's treating the workers in these unions and stuff at the moment? Any thoughts?
Yeah, well, I actually trained to be a nurse. I was an ambulance officer for quite some time as well, so I totally understand. I never understood why teachers and nurses are constantly undervalued in all of the stuff that we do. We're essential and always undervalued and always getting screwed over. People just don't understand the work that's involved with it. And then with all this cost of living stuff going on, why is this still happening? Because I did my nursing training, about 15, nearly 20 years ago, and it was happening then and it's still happening now, and it's been happening well before then. What's going on? What's going on, honestly? Good on them, though. They need to stand up and make a stand for all of this, but I just feel like it's always going to be on deaf ears with this government.
Hey, what do you think, Fleur? Have we got a receptive government at all yet? Do you think, are you guys doing this all together to force their hand to be receptive?
Yeah, I mean, the point of a strike is to force a settlement and to show the strength of feeling among the workforce. And so, of course, that's what we want. We want the government to come to the table with a fair pay offer. I think we've got to also put it in the context of what this government's done for workers. Since they've been elected, they have been on have really implemented an agenda of constantly diminishing rights for working people. They got rid of fair pay agreements. They failed to increase the minimum wage by anywhere close to inflation since the time they've been in power. They also cancelled pay equity claims and gutted the Equal Pay Act. And I think it's important to remember when they did that, they said, oh, well, workers will still have collective bargaining. These are workforces which are predominantly dominated by women. And so it's not surprising, really, that with the absence of fair pay agreements, with what they've done to the minimum wage, with the cancelling of pay equity claims, workers are turning to collective bargaining to deliver for them. And when it doesn't, the choice they have is to take strike action or to accept the poor offers on the table. And I'm really proud of the workforces that are standing up to this government, because this government is an anti-worker government, and it's been constantly implementing a agenda of diminishing rights for working people in this country.
Is this officially, like when I was talking to the teachers union about this, and I kind of said to them, do you have the other unions at the table next to you at the cafe? He went, well, officially no. How does this marry up between the legality around you guys negotiating together or separately? Or is it literally like wink, wink, nudge, nudge? We just happen to be doing it on the same day. How does that all work out itself?
So each strike is, and there'll be, if it goes ahead, there'll be a series of strikes on that day. So there'll be a strike by NZEI members, there'll be a strike by PSA members, there'll be a strike by NZNO members. So those are, in a legal sense, all separate strikes. And each of those strikes under the law have to be for advancing that collective bargaining. And that is true. That's the reality of what is being advanced through the particular strike that each union is undertaking. Of course, there's a degree of coordination on the 23rd of October, but the actual reason for the strike is to seek a better deal in the collective bargaining for teachers, for nurses, for mental health workers. So that's the reality, really. And it comes on top of quite a lot of strike action that's happened since this government's been in power. We've seen it in the public service. We've seen workforces that have never gone on strike before taking strike action. We took members at Pharmac out on strike. They were we have never been on strike there. So we are seeing a strong response to this government's agenda for working people.
Yeah, I think we spoke lastly at one of the teachers' unions not long ago, and they said teacher support staff had never been out on strike, and this is a part of what they're doing. So very clearly, you are striking on the same day. There is an element of coordination in that, but the teachers' union are striking. The collective we're talking about, the teachers' union collective is for the teachers. The nurses' union collective is for the nurses. It's not like all 5 unions or 6 or 7, whatever it ends up being. It's not the collective for all of them. In and of themselves, they're individually. That sort of happen to be on the same day. Is there ever a conversation around your in your boardroom, your work boardroom, or around your coffee table, however it rolls at your workplace, for actually a general strike, like involving all public servants? Does that ever come up? And if it does, how does that differ? I mean, I know how it differs, but why is that differing this time, and why aren't we going straight to that?
Yeah, it comes up all the time. And look, unions constantly think about all of the levers that we have and how we can put as much pressure as possible on the employer and the government, particularly in this environment. This is pretty close to a public sector widespread general strike. It is a large action and all over New Zealand with thousands of workers, but it is each of them for their own collective bargaining. Mm-hmm. Police talk a lot about lining up collective agreement expiry dates, working together, doing pattern bargaining. But at the end of the day, the issues for different workforces are quite different. So we've got 11,500 allied health workers who are currently considering whether they will take strike action on the 23rd of October. And that ballot's just underway. It's about to close tomorrow at 5 o'clock. That workforce has 60 professions within it, including people like social workers, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, anaesthetic technicians. So you can imagine the issues are really complex, really different. They have a whole lot of training issues that are different. They have a whole lot of demands of their employer in terms of professional development. They expect different things from rosters. There's a whole lot of different rostering arrangements. So when it comes to advancing the issues for them in the bargaining, they're quite different than another group of workers who might be trying to advance something in relation to, for example, we've got mental health workers who are considering going on strike on that day. The issues for them are very different. They, one of the big issues that we've been facing in mental health facilities is the police withdrawal from support for mental health and 111 call-outs. There's a big issue around security and safety of that workforce, particularly when rosters aren't filled or people are doing long hours. So in the bargaining, what tends to happen is you get into discussions, but those discussions are very workforce specific. And the reality is that the allied workforces and the mental health workforces and teachers and nurses all have different issues that they want to advance at the bargaining table. So you've got to balance that when you're running a big industrial dispute as well.
I'm just thinking, because obviously the healthcare strikers, that'll be under sort of the Ministry of Health, that'll be under Simeon Brown, and the education will be under Erica Stanford. And this will cause obviously a lot of headaches for Parliament because multiple ministers and ministerials will be tied up in it. Do you think all going out on one day makes the cases for the individual groups more or less likely? Like, what is now the reason for all going out on the same day? What does that add to your case? Or at least, what does that add to the pressure that you're bringing for your case?
I mean, I think it does send a really strong message that each of these collective bargaining processes are not delivering for the workers, and they're not delivering to the extent that these workers have decided to take industrial action on this day. That is a decision that workers take really seriously. Even running a strike ballot is something that unions take very seriously. It's a big deal, and particularly for these professions who are so committed to their work. And in the health system, obviously, we've got to go through a process of life-preserving services, make sure there is a skeleton staff in place. So the whole process leading up to the strike is a lot of work for everybody and not something that anyone takes lightly. But what I would say, if the government are that worried about it, they should try and settle it. Other national governments have shown quite a lot of enthusiasm and commitment to settling industrial disputes. They've, actually treated union officials and unions seriously. They've respected the workforces. They've attempted to sit down and work issues through. What we've seen from this government so far is name-calling, aggression, and political hijinks. So really, they only have themselves to blame for the reaction that we're seeing in the community to what they've done to the health system.
Yeah. I've got one more question about that shortly. But Sunita, before we let Fleur go, any more questions or comments for her?
Oh, no, I'm just listening intently on this. It just rolls me up. It really rolls me up. I just do not know what this government's doing, to be honest.
I guess I want to know, Fleur, the last thing is, we hear lies from the ministers, and we know they're lies, like it's the $120,000 that nurses earn, and then very quickly we can disprove that by, having eyes and looking at what the nurses earn. Or the other one that we're hearing from Simeon Brown, and I guess it's from other ministers as well for their departments, is how much this will put the customer, in their case, the patient, out. And I'm wondering how it feels on the inside looking out to be gaslit like that, because we know the stats and we know that an understaffed ward in a hospital puts out a patient far more and puts the health and the safety of the patient in far more peril than having a surgery delayed by a day. So what does it feel like from the inside being gaslit by the people you're supposed to be able to negotiate in good faith with before you even get to the table.
Yeah, I think you've picked up a really important point there. Industrial disputes, like any argument or any dispute, don't get resolved if the side with power racks things up. It's a very unhelpful approach from the minister, and it's quite unusual, including being quite unusual from National Party cabinet ministers of previous governments. The thing is, as well, it won't wash with the public. The public are worried about what this government is doing to our health system. They see understaffing. They bear the brunts of the effects of it. So it's not only very unhelpful in terms of being quite inflammatory and undermining the ability to settle the dispute, but it's not going to wash with the public either. We've been overwhelmed with support from the public for health workers. And, you just have to look at what they've done to administrative and clerical roles. This government forced cuts on Te Whatu Ora, which resulted in voluntary redundancies of admin and clerical workers who do important things like scheduling surgery, transcribing notes. And all of that has now been pushed on to other health workers, and the public are bearing the brunt and feeling the cost, really. So I would really urge Simeon Brown to be mature about this, to work on settling it instead of playing political games with people who are going on strike and who are actually the heroes of our public health system.
Yeah. And I just want to use that term again, gaslighting, because the thing that's happening is even when a reporter dares to do their job, or an interviewer dares to do their job and points out that what they're saying is not true, and then in the next interview they say exactly the same thing. It's the only word for it. They're gaslighting. But actually, finally, Fleur, and I know you haven't been in this PSA position incredibly long, and because I'm going to kind of ask you a historical question, which you may not have personal knowledge of, but I'm sure you've heard. What is the vibes around how the unions, PSA, others, are treated? And work with, for example, a Labour-led government, because no one's saying there's not industrial action there, versus a national-led government. Is there a clear difference that you understand?
Yeah, and I think it boils down to respect. Labour governments traditionally respect unions more than national governments do. But this national government is in a field of its own. The previous John Key government met regularly with union leaders. John Key came to the PSA conference. He was welcome. It wasn't the friendliest reception, but he was treated with respect and with dignity. We can't even get a meeting with the Prime Minister, nor can the Council of Trade Unions. I have to give her dues. Last week, I did meet with Brooke Van Velden to talk about her changes to the Employment Relations Act, and I respect her for that meeting. It didn't go very well. And we meet regularly with Judith Collins and Nicola Willis, but the attitude isn't one of how can we engage, how can we understand where the workforce is at, how is morale. It is really, we are going to do this, we are going to do that. They're happy to listen, but it's not based on that fundamental respect. And it comes through in their policies. It's not just in how they treat union leaders. It comes through in what they're doing. This government is introducing harsh changes to the Employment Relations Act, which basically amount to fire at will for every worker. And if you're going to do that, if you have such disdain for working people, then meeting with union officials is the least of our problems, to be honest.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going to repackage what you've just said to me. What you've just said to me is typically the national-led government aren't best friends, but you can respect the office of the Prime Minister. Typically the Labour-led government are a government that respects the unions and works with them in a different way. And then you've got these guys, which are a completely different case altogether. That's what I hear you saying.
Yeah, I think that's right. And look, they have got, if I talk to retired union officials who lived through the Employment Contracts Act, where unions in this country were absolutely decimated almost overnight, they will say what they are doing when it comes to fire at will is worse than the Employment Contracts Act.
Wow. Every
New Zealand worker will be in insecure employment. Imagine the ramifications of that within workplaces, how you treat managers, the deference it encourages. Imagine the impacts on things like borrowing to be able to afford a house and repay mortgages. It's a disgraceful attack on workers, and this is just another one of the the real agenda of diminishing rights. I mean, the pay equity betrayal was constitutional vandalism on a scale we've never seen. But what they're doing to the Employment Relations Act and that process around dismissals and having secure work is just next level.
Yeah. Before we sign off for the night and say goodnight, Fleur, do you have anything else that we need to know? Anything we need to be keeping our eyes on between now and you said 23rd October and those sort of 3-week period?
Yeah, well, obviously, we're really hopeful that the employers will come to the table and settle this dispute. We'd rather not go ahead with a strike action, but this feeling among members and workplaces is that we need to stand up for public health, and we need to make sure that we really have a strong voice on the day and at the pickets. And so my message really is come along to the picket line. It should have a really energising feel. There'll be picket lines all over the country. Most of them will be in the middle of the day. And it'd be great to see as many people as possible. Even members of the community who aren't on strike are very welcome to come and support down the picket line.
Awesome, Fleur. National Secretary of the PSA, that is Fleur Fitzsimons. Fleur, thank you for joining us. And look, we should definitely, we all hope that it doesn't end up being a strike, because that's the idea of announcing the strike in the future, saying to the government, let's talk between now and then. But if there is, or if there isn't, we will be great to have you back on before the actual strike action.
Pleasure.
All right. All the best, Fleur. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
It's funny, Sunita, because when you're not necessarily that world, it's things you think about. But the world that they're in, like you're saying, nurses, teachers, they're the ones that during COVID we all did this for. Essential. Yeah. This is the thing, they're the essential workers. And then when COVID's over and a new government gets in, they just get kind of thrown to the side. It's so disgusting.
Yeah. Work's not important now. Come on. Yeah. Honestly, it's just ridiculous. And with patients and the people that are in the hospitals and stuff like this, if this strike does happen, I'm sure that they're going to be backing them. People aren't going to get mad about the fact that they're having longer wait times for their nurses to come round to them on the wards. I think they're going to be backing them because they're the ones that are front line understanding how tough it is for these people. So it just riles me up. It's just another case of the little guys getting bullied and now having to, forced to stand up to them. And I really hope that it works.
I'm really interested. And maybe you could know this, Sunita, because you're not like me and locked into news and politics 24/7 necessarily. But I wonder, because we see what's going on, because then we investigate what's going on and then we talk about what's going on. Like the week that the government announced that they were going to change the time for registering before an election, they were going to get rid of that. We in that week, we spoke to the Electoral Commission and they said it's not going to make any difference. So that was like 3 weeks ago. Last week, big news headlines. It's not going to make any difference. Yeah, we know that. We figured that out day one. So what I'm saying is because I'm sort of in the middle of everything, I think everybody knows everything. But what I'm interested is, does the general public know that when Simeon Brown says $125,000 for a nurse, that it's bullshit? Or do they just keep hearing him repeat it so they then believe it, because they might not have heard the rebuttal or the rebuke. And so do they just believe it? I don't know the answer to that. Do you have any thoughts?
It's hard to know, isn't it? It's just, people are always going to believe what someone official says, especially if they're, part of that side of things. And they want to believe what is being said and not really look into it. And it doesn't take much to, go ask a nurse yourself and find out exactly what they have to go through. Why are we losing so many nurses to go overseas for better money? It's got to be a reason, or else if there was good money here, they wouldn't be going. Yeah.
And I remember, I've mentioned this a few times on the show. I can't remember which breakfast show it was. It was either AM, which is now gone, or breakfast, but the Prime Minister being on that the last election, talking about how much better they were going to do for the nurses and looking after them. And so the host was like, so you're going to pay them more? And he just wouldn't answer it. He just would not answer the question as leader of the opposition. Whereas I don't think any of those professions, nurses, teachers, the service industry, that are employed by the government, do it for the money. But you also got to make sure that, you know, a worker gets a fair remuneration on what they're worth as well. So there's a middle ground, isn't there? Like, I don't think any teacher goes into teaching because they want to get rich, but equally you can't pay them like you're treating them like shit. Like, a paycheck is indicative. It's a sign of the value you put in that person. And if you're undervaluing them in the paycheck, then you're undervaluing them, basically.
Absolutely. And I think also it's particularly, I'm only speaking from a nurse's point of view because I have done that. That you're kind of gagged. You can't do and say anything that's going to put the profession into disrepute. So, you know, even being able to speak the truth about your job and what money you're getting and all that sort of stuff, you can't really say that. It's hard to actually come out public and stand up against it. So it becomes a really tough thing because only an official person can actually give the truth out.
And I know that those who do speak out in that kind of profession, it's a bit different, I think, with teachers, but you're right, the health system seems to have a slightly different expectation of how they speak. But the people who do speak out in that industry always have to make sure that everyone's really clear. I'm speaking on my personal capacity here, not my capacity as a nurse at this hospital or a doctor at this hospital, for that exact reason. I just hate it. I just think there's such an easy solution, and we've done this before, you know, the money that the government, and I'm not going to say gave away, I'm just going to say reallocated to landlords and back in tax cuts, could have given all these public servants, teachers, nurses, all the pay rise they need and want, and still had billions left over. So they've just made a decision that we are gonna undervalue or devalue these people in the service industry, and we are gonna overvalue landlords. And I mean, put into that tax cuts that the top 10% get the most of. Put into that, you know, the tax breaks for big tobacco, for God's sake, which were $250 million for a year, and then they said they'd roll it out for the next 3 years. So that's what, $1 billion. I mean, imagine getting to the end of this first term, and the people that are singing your praises from the top of the rooftops are big oil for the oil and gas exploration, big tobacco, and the wealthiest. You know, there's the ones who are going to be on the billboards, whether it's official or unofficial. You know, just the idea of, and who will be at the bottom, you know, the groups that have been trying to build out Indigenous language for so long, the disability sector. Do I have it with me? I might have it with me. I once, I looked up broken promises from National. Maybe I should just do it live. We'll do it live. And there was an RNZ article with like a defunding. Okay, let's do it. Who has the Luxon-led government defunded? Like, they defunded the police. They always talk about it. There was a list on an RNZ story, and it was just, the list was unbelievable. And I can remember it because I then used it, and I used it in a thumbnail, and there was so many groups that they had taken money away from. There wasn't enough room on the thumbnail to put them all. It was utterly ginormous. I might see what if I can find it. I probably I'm struggling to find the article, but what I can actually do, what I can do is I can do this, because this is the thumbnail. This is the thumbnail I made. So I've actually got it right here. So this is part of the list. Ignore all that because this is not the imagery it was. Poor old, look, making Craig look, poor old Nero, we'll leave him alone. But this is the list down the right-hand side, and it says, just to name a few, these are some of the places that they took money away from: Disabled People, Stats New Zealand, SFO, Parliamentary Services, Oranga Tamariki, the NZSIS, the police. Remember how much they went on and on and on and on about the Greens want to defund the police when they took money away from the police, which is the dictionary definition of defunding the police. Customs, Ministry of Justice, Social Development, Health, Education, Ministry for Women, Ministry for the Environment, Ministry for the Pacific Peoples, IRD, ERO, Crown Law, Family Violence and Sexual Violence, MBIE, just to name a few. So they're all places that have either disappeared or have been underfunded. And so it's what these guys are. It's a slash and burn government. And on that note, every night Citizen gives us a bit of an update. What this means, Sunita, is there's a date that the next election has to be held by. Like there's an end date, and that's apparently 445 days from now. So it'll probably be before that, but the latest it can be till the next election is 445 days. Kiwi Bird says, moral of the story, don't fuck with the workers. And Peter says, I think this government has oppositional defiance disorder. Pattern of angry / irritable mood, argumentative, defiant behavior, or vindictiveness. Yeah,
It sounds like
yeah. Hey, there's some other stuff we're going to talk about tonight, but I was just going to have a look at the one about the pension, because I don't actually have a lot on it after it, because it was one of the big stories coming out today. It's like, oh, pension to rise to 72, and then there wasn't very much more about it other than the story. So I took a stab in the dark, and I might have picked the wrong story for a lot of us. But it is an interesting story to talk about. So let's just maybe have a bit of a chat about it. There's not really too much audio or video to show you. So the Treasury, and I actually mentioned this last week. I find it interesting that it's come back today, because this was out last week. But the Treasury has said the pension age needs to rise to 72, and it's asking about politicians. Do they agree or disagree? A sobering report from Treasury paints a picture of extreme debt if taxes don't rise or the pension age isn't increased. But neither of these policies are election winners. So is there any political consensus? This is a really, really fair point, because we've had this conversation several times on this show, and it's very clear that we do not have the money today to run the pension as we're running it today. Now, so something needs to change. Now, we can go back to tax breaks for landlords and the top 10%. That could be the change. But if it stays as it is today, the country doesn't have the money to keep the pension age at 65, but a government could change financial policy to make it work. Right? So I'm not saying therefore we have to lift it, but we've got to do something. We either need to change the financial coffers the government's got, which we could do tomorrow, or you can raise the age. The Treasury's come out and they've said, and I'm not sure if it's in this article, the one last week, that I shared last week, was that the two options they've put out there is to increase the age to 72 years of age over the next 40 years, or increasing GST from 15% to 32%. So doubling and a bit GST to pay from it. Cuts to health and welfare also suggested. Look, the reality is there's easy ways to pay for this in an aging population, and it does involve a tax take, and it could be changed. But, I mean, it's a fair conversation to go, what do we do about the pension problem? Because it is a problem, because we have an aging population. So there is something that needs to happen. I'm more about keeping it where it is and finding the funds elsewhere, or figuring it out. But I don't know. You got any thoughts about this, Sunita? You're decades away from having to think about this yourself, I can tell. But
I'm only 2 years away from it.
Yeah.
Well, 65 anyway. But it's just like I basically reckon I'll be gone before the retirement age anyway. I'm just like, I don't even want to. I have pretty much zero KiwiSaver. I don't have any children that are going to put me and help me, or anything like that. So it's kind of like, it's kind of sad. But I just think about, who do I know at 72? Like, my mum is, I think, 76. She definitely kept on working and was fine. But there are a lot of people in their 70s that couldn't work that long as well. And the struggle of some pensioners is huge. Like, the ones that are retiring now are only just the ones that are actually sort of benefiting from KiwiSaver and things like that, the superannuation. So they've had to do it pretty rough and hard for the first few years of their working lives. So yeah, it's definitely, I don't even like thinking about it, just because I'm just like, I am actually screwed myself personally.
I mean that's why we have the public safety net for people who don't have the ability to save or buy 7 rental properties, Mr. Luxon, or whatever it is. And I firmly believe we won't, and I won't buy into this idea of if you just work hard enough, you'll be right. No, there are many people who have hit home runs in life who won't acknowledge they started on third base, and there are many people who haven't been able to get up onto even the batter's mound yet, through no fault of their own, through circumstances that they've been born into. Yes, some people do cross across those boundaries from the poorest to the richest or whatever, but it's less likely. And it's less likely because that's how our system is set up, to reward the rich and punish the poor. That's what we have. We have a system that does that. I'm not that dissimilar to you, Sunita. I don't have a KiwiSaver. It's not nothing that's there, and yada yada. But then there's also another question to ask, and I don't have the exact number with me. Someone in the chat, you'll be able to tell me, is that of course some New Zealanders die sooner than the rest of us, statistically speaking, specifically Māori. Oh. And so there's another question to be asked, which is for Māori, should we be lowering the retirement age? My mum went to 78. And my dad to 83. So, following this new system, they would have gotten something. And there is also, I often think about these conversations, Sunita, as if it was a school debate, meaning, can I take a step back and look at some logical things? I remember a conversation between the Retirement Commissioner and Winston Peters. And the point that was made was, if they raise the age by, let's say, 2 years over 20 years or whatever it would take, the life expectancy also had gone up by 2 years in that time period. So it's kind of the same. I'm not fully on board with that, but I can see the argument you could make. And I do think that that the inarguable is that if we keep doing what we're doing today, it will bankrupt the country. And so some changes have to be made. And lots of people in the chat are making some of the obvious suggestions, like JC, tax the 1%.
You are finding that there's people getting dementia and Alzheimer's and things much earlier too. Like, we've got health issues and things going on with that are going to cause a lot of issues if you're raising it up a bit any higher. Like, some people in their 55, as young as 55, are developing these issues that mean that they're pretty much going to be incapacitated really quickly. Yeah. What happens? They can't carry on.
And that's why we need to have a strong safety net that includes things like whatever the version of a sickness benefit is for people who can't do that, they can access it earlier. Waiheke has another solution which could be implemented today, which is means test the pension. Respectfully, those people who have hit a home run because they've started on third base don't typically need the $250 a week or whatever with their 7 rental properties, Mr. Luxon. So, for the sake of someone who has always been in the bottom third of earning, maybe you can give up the money that you don't even need as a service to your country for others who are more needing. Master also says, let's increase the GST. I dare them. Yeah. I mean, that's it. But that's what the article is saying. The article is saying the idea of raising the pension, the idea of raising taxes, the idea of raising GST, none of those are, because in general, voters are immature, therefore we can't have a real honest conversation. That means those conversations can't be winning ones, which is why I guess if they're talking about it being bipartisan, that's what needs to happen. There needs to be a bipartisan group in government and or in parliament put together to come up with some solutions. Then maybe those solutions get put to a referendum. Then maybe that's the thing that directs policy. Maybe that could be a way of looking at it. I don't know what the outcomes would be, but yeah, Winston Peters is the worst at it. And he's the worst at it and the best at it. Again, I can remember a conversation, and he spins it so well, because when you talk about, it might have been that same conversation with the Retirement Commissioner. He talks about this being an attack on the elderly. And he was saying, if it goes up by 2 years and then over the next 20 years, it's an attack on the elderly. And I thought, you are both lying and you're genius, because it's not an attack on the elderly. It's an attack on the 40-year-olds because the elderly already have their pensions. It's actually an attack on people who would get a pension in 20 years from now, but he gets to spin it and he gets to use his way of saying things, and it works. So he's both a villain and a genius all at the same time.
Oh, Winnie, eh?
I was thinking, because we didn't feature this yesterday, that maybe I think we should play a bit of this conversation. This is not advertised to be played. After this, I want to talk about Destiny Church and what's going on with you and them. But I wonder if we're up for a bit of a conversation about old John Jay and Mr. Luxon yesterday, because we've been talking a lot in this week, and obviously the weeks leading up to it, about the decision at the UN not to recognise statehood in Palestine. And John Jay had a real crack on Monday morning. And these Prime Minister sit-downs, they try and go bang with bang, bang, bang with 4 stories. And I thought, oh, yep, this is a 9-minute clip. We're not going to play it all, by the way. But this is a 9-minute clip. I'll try and find the part where they're talking about Gaza or Palestine. It's the whole thing. So John's like, nope, this is the thing we're talking about. This is the most important thing. And it's pretty compelling watching. Let's have a look.
Prime Minister, just a quick clarification. Does this government support a 2-state solution?
Absolutely, and our decision remains unchanged. It's when, not if, and we definitely support a 2-state.
It's when, not if, just not when now. That's the thing you forget. Just the when is not now, but it will be when, just not now.
State solution. We just don't think now is the right time for state recognition.
Yeah.
In order to have a 2-state solution, though, you do have to have 2 states, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do, and you've actually got to be able to recognise a state. And then our major issue, a major challenge, as we reassessed our position, was that when you.
I mean, sorry to say it again, but the word gaslighting is coming to mind again about this. Yes, we need 2-state solutions. Well, let's do 2 states. No, but we will, but not now. We need 2 states. Yes, let's do 2 states then. No, it's like it is a version of that same thing again.
Got Hamas in charge of large parts of Palestine as the de facto government, and they're a brutal terrorist organisation. We need to see the removal of Hamas. We also need to see more capacity building with the Palestinian Authority, and we continue to support the Palestinian Authority. In fact, we want to make sure that they've got good governance, good institutions. They're planning to run elections. We want to continue to support that. And so, you would have seen New Zealand, for example, sign up with the French and the Saudi Arabia statement. We'll continue to do that. We continue to advance the 2-state solution. We just don't think state recognition is necessary right now.
I want you to talk me through the process, because you were given 2 options. One was the option we went with, which was essentially a continuation of New Zealand's current approach. That's what Winston Peters announced on Saturday morning. But the second option, it seems to me, and I have the cabinet paper, addresses exactly the concerns, explicitly addresses exactly the concerns you just raised. And I'm going to read part of it out. Recognition of Palestine with conditions, including making clear that New Zealand's engagement with the government of Palestine, i.e. the Palestinian Authority, would continue to be conditioned on the exclusion of Hamas from present and future Palestinian government.
So they could have recognised Palestine, which would hopefully give some support to the Palestinians and the people living in Gaza, but exclude Gaza from the conversation. It's part of the advice they could have done. But Luxon's going, well, we couldn't do it while Hamas was still there. It's like, well, actually, one of the possibilities was doing it while they're still there, but cutting them out of the deal. And that just goes to show the word I used when this all came out was cowardly, how much more cowardly it actually is, and how much he's not a leader, because he will not go down a situation of nuance to find the best solution. He'll just, he or maybe his 2 colleagues will just go black and white, and so now he has to face up to the decisions made by his 2 minor parties, perhaps unknown, just speculating.
Structures and respect for Israel's right to exist in peace and security. In other words, option 2 offered you all the things you just said New Zealand wanted.
No, look, I mean, there were 2 options that we discussed, but at the end of the day, you've got Hamas as a terrorist organisation, John, in control of Gaza, a significant portion of Palestine.
So if you didn't miss that, Fano, that was Luxon completely ignoring everything that John Campbell just said and going back to his original talking point. That was actually a pretty good sleight of hand magic trick. I don't know where that ace of spades came from. He pulled it out of nowhere. That's how good that sleight of hand just was.
No role for Hamas in any future government. You need to see them disband, disarm, renounce, and you see Palestinian leaders renounce violence and terrorism.
How is that going to happen? And isn't Keir Starmer's point are exactly antithetical to you. So the UK, joining Australia and Canada in the last 10 days, has decided to recognise Palestine. 3 of our 4 Five Eyes mates have decided to recognise Palestine. Keir Starmer's justification for it, 180 degrees different from yours. It was, and I quote, "In the face of the growing horror in the Middle East, we are acting to keep alive the possibility of peace and a two-state solution." Is he wrong?
Well, the first thing I'd say, John, is each country is entitled to its independent view. We talk about an independent foreign policy, and that's exactly what New Zealand has. We have friends that have recently recognised Palestine, UK, France, Canada. We've also got friends that haven't recognised Palestine. Think about many countries in Western Europe and throughout Southeast Asia as well. So, countries will make their own determination about that.
You used the word many, Prime Minister. 157 of the 193 UN states have recognised Palestine. You don't have many on your side, do you?
John, 150 of them were recognised years ago. So it's only in recent...
Don't think that's the win you think it is, Mr. Luxon. So what you're saying is some people recognised it a decade ago and we didn't. I don't think that's the win you think it is. We're going to give this another minute or so, then we'll pull out of it. I don't have an exact time period, although I wouldn't mind finishing it, because when John wrapped up with him, it was pretty brutal at the end.
Times over the last 3 or 4 months, we've seen some others recognise. We've equally seen other countries say they're not recognising. But irrespective of whether you do state recognition or not, the main event is that we actually need to resolve that conflict in the Middle East. And for that to happen, two things need to happen.
How will that happen?
Well, the first thing... we need Hamas to release hostages, because, John, what happened was 1,200 innocent Israelis.
Okay, and this is where we're going to probably pull out, because now they're going back to it all started on October 7th. They got to release they've offered numerous times, including on about day 2, to release the hostages. This is now, honestly, this is now going back to the start, where you kind of feel like you got to say, oh no, we denounce Hamas. We're past that. We're so past that it doesn't actually matter. Let me just get to the end. I'm going to just eyeball it and see if we can get it, because the way the interview actually finished was John Campbell talking about leadership, and it was actually, I'm looking how animated he is there. Maybe this is it. We'll just give it a play. I'm just picking it out of the air, because talking about leadership at the end, it was pretty brutal as well.
Martin Luther King and Kate Shepherd contributing to public life. None of them said we will contribute to public life when we're absolutely persuaded of the complete and utter correctness of this. Sometimes you just have to lead, don't you? And Helen Clark's point is, and she spoke to Logan Church in New York, that was a thing New Zealand used to be celebrated for doing. Are we doing it now? Does this feel like meaningful leadership by New Zealand here?
John, you may have your own prejudice and your own views about that.
You're liberal. This is the Luxon school of Trump. Okay, well, who do you? Yeah. So you vote Democrat, do you?
I'm asking you a question, Prime Minister. I'm asking you a question. That's my job. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I would say yes, we've got an independent foreign policy. We genuinely went through that decision to say we will reassess and look at our position of when, not if, and if that's still appropriate. And we've confirmed that we think that is appropriate. I've said to you why. It's because we don't think recognition at this point changes anything. The main event is to get a ceasefire and to stop the suffering that's happening there, John. That's why you've seen me make very strong statements against Israel, saying it's grossly disproportionate actions. Equally, that's...
Remember, whānau, when words and actions disagree, you believe the actions. The action here is nothing, no matter what the words are saying. He had a chance to do an action, which was to recognise statehood. He's got a chance right now to do an action, which we're all being told by people who are more intelligent than us and who are more in this world, that actually sanctions would be the best thing to do now. Those actions aren't being done. Your words aren't believed.
I made equally strong statements about Hamas and what it did, which is utterly unacceptable, either as a terrorist organisation. They're complex issues, John. There are people on society who have views very strongly held on both sides of that debate. I get that. But I think we've had a very balanced and appropriate response for that. And I think we have led, and I think we have held up our independent foreign policy.
So here's the follow-up question, which I'm not obviously criticising John Jay for. He is our journalistic god that we bow to every day. If we're leading, Mr. Luxon, who is following us? Because if you're if you think you're showing leadership, you said we are leading. That is saying New Zealand is leading in this. Okay, who are we leading? Who's following us? Because it feels like others are running away from us and we're standing still. Typically in the running race, the person standing still is not deemed the leader.
Policy as evidenced by this decision.
There you go. Well, I know I just talked a lot there, Sunita, but we've been doing this for a long time. So I'd like to just give you an opportunity to share anything you like about this whole clusterfuck.
This is the first time I went completely off news and everything. I've been off for quite a few weeks. Just it's too much for me mentally, and so I just get little tidbits. And so to see that, I'm just like, what the hell? That's the person that's supposed to be leading our country, and he just talks like some suit in a boardroom, and there's absolutely no humanity or anything going on there. It's just, I just don't even know where to start with it. Like, I cannot. I don't know.
But it's one of those things as well. And I guess we were talking about Winston Peters yesterday. We had Chippy on with us. And it's like, when it comes to issues of human rights, Winston Peters has been on the wrong side of them almost every time. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I'm not going to say every time because there'll be something somewhere he voted for. But, you know, whether it's homosexuality law reform, because he was around then, or whether it was, you know, same-sex marriage, not to pull out just two from the LGBT community, he's always voted against them. So if part of me goes on in hindsight, well, of course he's going to vote against us because he's always on the wrong side of history.
Yeah.
And I just, it does feel like, I don't think we have to be that little country that could. I think I can. Like always lead the way, but to be stagnant, and in some levels to be stagnant, feeling like going backwards, that just feels so foreign to me. We don't have to be, you know, that little kind of yappy dog that always jumps up and makes noise, but we also don't have to be the one that ignores the flotilla going off in the right direction either. It's just, it's a bizarre feeling. It's a bizarre place we're in.
Is going from Jacinda and how we were always praised for being trailblazers and everything, this small little country that is just, you know, doing the right things, and now we're here. We're here. I just, how can it just be so polar opposite? And we're all feeling it. Like, we're all feeling such a drastic change, and it's fatiguing. It is exhausting to live this life here in New Zealand at the moment.
And I mean, think about what you've just said, and now think about someone living in the Middle East, in Gaza. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like how much more are we lucky and blessed and, you know, by chance here, those of us that were born here and there was no reason for us to be here, finding life hard and difficult, and then think about the real problems in the world, like the actual problems.
Bombings, genocide. Like, we can't even comprehend that here. Yeah. But we're the ones making these stupid decisions about them.
Well, that's the other thing I realized when watching Winston at the UN. I went, he's representing me, because he is on the world scale, on the world scene. You know, this is New Zealand's response. It's not the world doesn't look at that and go, oh, this is the coalition of chaos's response. It's like Winston Peters has just spoken on my behalf. I don't like that feeling. I don't like that feeling.
No, neither do I.
Let's get to some of these super chats, shall we? Pardon me. James says only the Palestinians should decide their futures. I agree with that in principle, James, but at the moment, Israel is getting in the way of Palestinians deciding their future. So I think some other countries around the world need to be involved in aiding Palestinians to get to decide their future. And it's certainly now what's happened is whatever the horrific number is, 82 or 83% or 90% of all the buildings being destroyed, they should decide their future, but they're going to need a shit ton of help from the outside world to build that future, if you know what I mean.
Because unfortunately, they've got a voice and all that sort of stuff, but this is happening to them.
Yeah.
And so they need us and allies to actually get that pulled away, and it's just not happening. We're voting against it.
Yeah. Mum, Danger of Mouse, thank you for your super chat. Let's recognise the 2 states when there's only one left. Well, that's the point. It's been decimated, hasn't it? Peter says, I've tried nothing and I'm all out of ideas. Yep, feels about right. Another one from Danger of Mouse. Our government is nothing less than a 3rd-tier Trump copycat, which when you think about it, Trump's already on about the 3rd tier. So that makes us about a 6th tier if Trump's already on a 3rd tier. And one of our Timu Trump. Arsehole. It's great to see Luxon being tested by a proper journalist on breakfast makes a nice change. Yeah, very good. Hey, Sunita.
Hi.
Tell me about your T-shirt.
Oh, do you love it?
I'm going. Don't freak out. I'm not going anywhere, but I'm about to put you in full screen so we can all see it. Don't freak out. I'm still here.
All right. So yeah, as you can see, it's quite a similar design to what you might have seen, particularly on Queen Street, with the man up, and it usually says man up, and oh my god, it's opposite. I don't know what I'm doing. And it usually says tu tangata, but this one says fuck up, pu tangata, and these were designed and sold by the Bloody Samoan. So I jumped on there as soon as I could to get one of these. So definitely go ahead and do that. From the Bloody Samoan, he's got TikTok and Insta and all that, and he has a store where he sells things like this. And I was wearing this when I was walking out of the Auckland Corey Lounge, and Brian and Hannah just
Did they see you?
They went up the stairs. I went down the elevator, and apparently people saw me walk out into the general airport and were like, and I had no idea, but I was proudly wearing this.
So let's have a talk about this. You sort of like when we have a guest host on, we want to be able to kind of incorporate part of their world into the conversation. Reminds me, tomorrow night we've got Paul Barlow coming on Whānau. Paul's going to be talking more about local body stuff. He's a bit of an expert in that area. It's where he's planted his flag this time around. And we're also supposed to have Debbie Nato-Apaka as well, talking about this Gaza UN situation. But for right now, you've been in our conversations for the last couple of years to do with Destiny. We're not going to play all of this, but this is the new series of Under His Command. Again, John Campbell, and he does an episode entitled Destiny versus Drag Queens or something like that. I'm not going to play it all, but we'll just give people an idea. Of course, it's not going to go for me now because I just tried to pause it at a funny time.
I've only watched it as soon as it came out at 6 a.m. that day. I haven't watched it since, so I haven't absorbed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do want to watch it again and be able, because a lot of people are asking me questions and I just don't even know what I was watching.
Sure, but whilst the advert's playing, we'll let that do it in the background. Give us the rundown of like, for example, the interaction you and your business have had with Destiny, and then we'll have a bit of a look at the new series. Give us the background.
Yeah, so my business has taken a massive hit in regards to everything we do. I had just built it up from COVID, doing all of these amazing tours. Of course, I focus a lot on drag, LGBT. I myself am an ally. I'm not part of the community. I'm just a huge ally and advocate. And so I was doing a lot of shows that were really sort of supporting and uplifting the LGBT community, Rocky Horror Picture Show, Rainbow Storytime, all that sort of stuff. And we were pretty much on a high. We really were. And then Rainbow Storytime started getting protested against. We got threatened. We had death threats. We got shut down. And my business suffered greatly. My best friend, Daniel, who was Erica Flash, the drag queen, we lived together. We worked together. We did everything together. He was my muse. He moved up to London because he needed to get away from it all. It was just way too much for him. So he's been living over there since April last year. I calculated with my lawyer that I have made a loss just in the last year of this happening of over $120,000 in the year of what I would have normally had. And of course, this being the 50th anniversary of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, we should be constantly on tour right now and doing our shows and doing all of our tributes. But we haven't been able to do a single thing. We haven't done anything since May last year, I believe it is. I've packed my drag away. Everything's in boxes. Usually that is where my drag wardrobe and all my wigs are. It's gone. So it's taken a real hit. And we just don't feel safe to be able to do anything because they used all of our images from the Rocky Horror Picture Show as they protested and painted over the Gisborne Rainbow Crossing. So they are directly attacking my actors, the image that we have, the shows that we do. And then they go and do stupid things like buying up all the tickets or registering all the spaces for any event so that no one turns up to it. So spiteful little petty things like that just absolutely crush people. That's the kind of stuff that we're up against.
Wouldn't be so bad if they bought them, eh? There's that famous line from NWA where Eazy-E, the boys in the band are getting pretty annoyed because there's these people stomping all over their CDs. And Eazy-E goes, well, they bought them, they paid for them, they can do what they want with them. So
I mean, this is Gisborne, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you'll see they're holding up pickets with posters on it, and it's images of my actors in Rocky Horror Picture Show. So that's why we don't feel safe. We've been asked to do it in front of Richard O'Brien himself for March next year. I've basically had to turn it down because I can't guarantee safety, and I feel sick to my stomach. I'm so full of anxiety that I can't do anything. I've been asked numerous times to do drag workshops and to go and speak at places. I was supposed to speak at the Decult conference. And we just received too many threats. Look, there was the picture there of Daniel as Frankenfurter. So it's just, it's too much for us and for me. And I cannot see anything happen to any of my cast and the people at a venue, let alone if it's kids or audience members that are coming along to the shows and people of the LGBT community that are trying to express themselves in their best way because they are supposed to feel safe at our events, but they're getting chastised outside. So this is the issue. I just got doxed last night on TikTok. Someone published up my phone number and my name on TikTok. And I had to go to the police, and he's threatening to put up my address. And, these are the kinds of things that I'm having to deal with on a daily basis. And it's absolutely awful. God, I looked awful in there.
That's not the takeaway, Sunita. That's not the takeaway of this conversation.
But that's the impact that it's had. I work for myself. I'm under a lot of stress at the moment, so I'm basically on a bit of a supported living benefit. I'm about to go get a big surgery done because my diabetes has gotten so bad from stress and anxiety that now I need to get a insulin pump installed, but I can't get it because I got too much scar tissue. So I need to go get, I need to look after my own health as well. So it's awful. I've just today lent out all of my Rocky Horror costumes to a friend who's doing doing the time warp as part of one of their shows, end of year shows. And usually I wouldn't be able to do that because we have to use it. But, it's all I can do is just do what I do. And you'll notice I'm hardly doing anything for the rainbow community at the moment because I feel like I'm a liability to them. Anything I go to or put my name to is going to get heat. So I've had to lay really low in order to save them, to be honest.
And I was going to ask you about Richard O'Brien. I interviewed Richard O'Brien when I was working at ZB quite soon after he moved back to New Zealand. I remember we played him Dave Dobbins' Welcome Home, and we kind of went, we're playing this for you, and he got all emotional. It was lovely. And he said to us in the interview that he doesn't allow non-professional groups to perform it. So you'll never see a high school doing it, sort of thing. So it's a pretty good feather in your cap that you guys can even do it from the sort of from the restrictions he actually puts restrictions around groups doing it. So to give kind of permission to do it, that's pretty cool for you.
Yeah, well, so what we do is the shadow cast. So it's not the actual full musical play rights. But I can tell you that the Tairi Musical Theatre Group in Dunedin actually have the rights for next year. So they're the first group to get the rights. But there's also in March next year, the UK tour of the Rocky Horror Show is coming to Christchurch, Auckland, and Wellington as well. So yeah, it's very hard to get the rights. And I literally spoke to Richard myself and I said, when can I get them? And he's just like, oh, it's very hard to get. So yeah, but he has seen what Dan does with Frankenfurter, and he's where we met his son Linus, and as he was filming this new documentary, The Strange Journey. So we've had quite a good involvement with Richard. Good. And he's amazing. The thing is, he doesn't get anything from the movie. So everything is from the play. So as much as you can, try to support the play itself, because that's where Richard gets gets the support from that.
I didn't know he didn't get anything from the movie. That seems wrong, slightly.
It got bought out, didn't it? So Disney now own it. So Frankenfurter's a Disney princess. But yeah.
Moana, Frankenfurter, perfect.
Totally.
Before we have a look at the show, the last time we talked to you were talking about your legal action ahead of what's going on. Any updates on that? Like you're suing basically. Let's to synopsize it. You're suing BTAM for a couple of mil. Any updates on that at the moment? Anything we need to know?
So I don't know if I'm going to get myself in trouble. Hopefully not. But
yeah, well, just actually, don't share anything that could, But I'm just saying, it's more to make sure you keep your legality and your side safe. Yeah. But anything you can share?
Well, we did have my lawyer had the first hearing the same day the John Campbell interview came out a couple of weeks ago. First ever High Court hearing that he attended. I didn't need to attend. So we're just waiting on the outcome of that. And that's in regards to some of the lesser charges on the lesser people, and in regards to, not necessarily getting back to the courts and, providing what is legally required of them. So that's something that we're looking at first before the big stuff happens. So is Tamaki just ignoring it, just ignoring the process? Not necessarily himself, but I mean, Brian Tamaki is one defender and respondent. The church is another respondent, so the whole committee. And then there are, I think, 5 or 6 smaller respondents, so members of the church and other leaders, pastors. So there are ultimately 7 or 8 people who we are actually taking action against, and there's about 26 actions that we're taking.
Not to talk necessarily about Brian now, right? So we don't make it personal about your case, but if someone gets had for $2 million, how enforceable is that in New Zealand? Like, because you hear about in America, they're like, oh, we'll give you $5 a week for the next 40 years. Like, how does that, do you know that, let's say in a completely unrelated case, a person was found guilty of defamation and was awarded $2 million. The person who's been awarded that $2 million, how do they collect? What do they have that enables them to collect the money?
So I don't know fully well about this, but I just know that they will go into their financials and figure out whether they're needing to sell assets. They might end up getting bankrupted. If you're looking at an organization, they'll look into their financials and go, well, no, yes, you can pay that all in a lump sum, and that's what we're wanting. But I think there are probably cases where it is going to be bit by bit by bit. So it's pretty much it's kind of like means tested, I guess, and the ability to do it, but they may have to sell assets.
You hear that's the thing. I wonder what assets they have, because I think that big place out Mount Wellington is always rented. So I wonder, I mean, I don't know what's going on with your case, but, I don't think Brian Tamaki is a trustee on any of the church things. He's kind of in name only. He's not legally connected to it. So I don't know. I mean, just when we hear what we're going to talk about now, I'll just show a little bit of which is the new season of John Jay's series, that how loose they've been on doing returns to the IRD. They don't seem to be particularly active in responding to demands from government agencies. I wonder, should it get to that, what what that will look like. So here's a little bit of this new episode from you, with you.
Thank you all for coming. My name is Sunita Torrance, and my fellow artist Daniel Lockett and I, we're the performers behind Rainbow Storytime, the Drag Queen Act. We are Coco and Erica Flash. I'm Coco.
And this is Daniel, aka Erica Flash.
There we go. That's quite a good place to leave it, isn't it? Right? I mean, just to pause it, we can see what's going on there. With I can't tell of the three of them who is the most glamorous, but you know, it's going. It's. I mean, your glasses and his glasses are basically the same size, really.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
You talk in this episode about having being attacked basically online and that. How's that all for you at the moment? Are you safe at the moment? Do you feel safe? Is it an ongoing situation? Like, I imagine every time something comes out, there'll be another load online for you.
Another wave and another wave. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, but actually the person that doxed me last night and is threatening me from last night is actually someone who is against Destiny Church himself as well. So it's kind of strange, but they've just kind of tried to insert themselves into our case, and I've had to denounce them. So that's what that was, but it's all sort of relative. But yeah, and there's just been some ongoing things going on. And yeah, this is one major thing that I can't really talk about just now because we're going through a whole heap of stuff with it. But basically, inappropriate physical examination by a medical professional involved with Destiny Church. Yeah, I guess it makes it as broad as possible. But things like that are happening to me, and Destiny Church is being brought into it. And it's just like, this is, it's a lot bigger than everyone even realized it would be. There are a lot more players in this than you think.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I do wonder as well. You said you trained to be a nurse and you went down that path. How you would have got this outfit into the Nurses Council? I'm not sure.
The kids' ward.
Not sure quite how that would have worked. But yeah, look, we've been in touch with you since, sort of this all came out, and we'll continue to do so. And, if you need anything else, let us know. We did that, rainbow buffer fundraising for you and that kind of stuff. We're happy to be behind you, and whether it's just you need personal support from behind or whether you need publicity and support from the community, we're here, if nothing else.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, our Give a Little page is still up and running. We're currently 200K behind with the lawyer, but don't worry about it. We'll get there. We'll get it out the winnings, I'm sure. But yeah.
Is that how it works? Like, is that how it works? Like, so what happens? So you got a 200K debt. If let's not hope and pray this doesn't happen, but if you weren't to get a settlement, does that then just become your personal debt?
Yeah, it does.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty big deal.
It's a pretty big deal, yeah. But now, because of my health and everything like that, we have now been able to switch on to legal aid, which is amazing.
Right.
But not before we already racked up that 200K because of Discovery, which is all the evidence and data and everything we had to collate with heaps of people helping. Yeah. So, the very big stuff, we didn't have the legal aid for that yet. So we've only just got onto that in the last month or so. So, yeah. It's a bit scary.
Well, best of luck with however that works out. And as I said, we'll be here to help if and when we can. And if you don't need us, we'll be here on the sidelines watching. So,
thank you guys so much, everyone.
We'll just wrap the show now just with a couple more, because it's fair that James gave us a clarification. Only Palestinians can decide their future, not Trump or Blair or our government, demanding Hamas is removed. Allies welcome, needed. Yep. And Danger of Mouse says, awesome, Rakahara Picture. Just so you know, I mean, when I got to interview the creator, I'm a nerd. I'm a huge fan. I had it on LP, like back in the 80s sort of thing. Yeah. So, and there was one of the songs, I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, that there was a skip in it, and it skipped at exactly the same point every time. So now when I hear the song, I go, that's where it skipped. It's still the same thing. And yeah, always regret not going to see Robert Muldoon playing the professor, because that happened in Auckland. And Richard O'Brien is is a bit of a hero, actually. And I went deep into it. So for people who know the show, in one interview once, he said, and I don't think he means literally, he might mean metaphorically, maybe it was literally, but he said all the characters in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, were people he met or saw in Hamilton. So all of the characters from that are inspired by real people in Hamilton because he was in New Zealand.
That's why.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, as I said, I don't know whether that means there was literally a Frankenfurter or there was a person who had that kind of, vibe, and that became that. But that was this thing. Riki also has a very good point. Klinger from MASH, also a Disney princess. Fair.
Yes. Yeah.
Fair.
Absolutely.
Big Olby says, Kia kaha, Sunita, sending you a big warm hug. More people here, loving your work, Sunita. And Destiny says, I'd love to see Destiny have their charitable status removed due to being a cult, not a religious org. I just, that whole charitable status thing, I mean, you're talking about how the government can save money. If the government wasn't giving back a third of all the donations people gave, like, I wonder how much that is. Because when you donate to a charity and then you can claim a third of that back, I mean, I get it. I understand the theory behind it. The theory behind it is these charities are doing work that then the government doesn't have to do. So it's like the government is paying for a third of it. But I also think I've never given to a charity thinking, I can get a third back. You just give to a charity because you give to a charity. And that could be a place the government could save money not doing those reimbursements. And New Zealanders would then just choose to give to the charity. But I don't know.
I don't see a church that only has charitable status because they're doing their own stuff for the community. I don't think that's right. If they really were doing stuff for the community, they'll be outsourcing and giving it to the other organizations, but everything is kept for themselves. That's an issue. That's an issue for me.
Yeah, and it's the tax status of lots of companies. I mean, you see not-for-profits. And not-for-profits, all it means is there can't be a profit at the end of the financial year. It doesn't mean, for example, people can't pay themselves massive salaries because you don't want to have that 600K left over at the end of the year. We'll just pay it to ourselves as a salary and it won't be left over. So yeah, I'm with you. Just to wrap up, one more super chat here just popped in. The Hamilton weirdos are just the best. She's a dangerous house. All right, now Sunita, we didn't get a chance to talk before the show, but what we do now is we wrap up. We play some outro music. You and I can hang around, and then we'll go off the screen. And if you want to wait there in the dark, not metaphorically speaking, I'll say goodbye to you after it's all gone, after all the credits are finished. So just stick with us. And all the people, and I'm not doing this to prompt them. They will do this anyway. They'll be saying lovely things to you and thanking you in the chat, and you'll get to see those as they go past, because that's what people do at the end of the show. As I said, I'm not saying this to prompt them to do it. This is what they do every night. So they're good at it. Yeah, they're good at it. And it'll make you feel lovely and warm and squidgy. And then you and I can have a quick chat once it's all done and once all the credits have gone past. All right, team, thanks for being with us tonight. Now, Paul Barlow is booked in for tomorrow night. Now, I have to mea culpa a little bit because I have cocked up. I was texting with Debbie Naroa-Paka on Sunday, organising that should come on tomorrow, and I got the name of her PA to put it in her diary, and I haven't emailed her PA yet. So as long as I haven't cocked up, Debbie's booked in for tomorrow night, and after the show's finished, I emailed myself a note before, I will be emailing Debbie's PA to make sure it's in the diary for tomorrow night. So if I've ballsed it up, I apologise massively, but that is currently the plan for tomorrow night. And Deb's coming on as well because I wanted to give a space for all of the left. We had Marama on Saturday, we had Chippy last night, we've got Debbie tomorrow, to respond to this UN decision about not recognising statehood. That's the reason I've asked them on. So that's the plan as we stand for tomorrow night. All right, guys, let's check out some lovely credits. Thanks to all of our lovely patrons. Remember, if you want to be a patron, patreon.com/Big Hairy News. Help us make the show, and you'll end up being in the credits, just like all these lovely people.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand.
That's it for us, team. As I said, back tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for the next edition of Big Hearing News. Nothing else from me, so I'll just say good night. Sunita, you're welcome to say good night now if you want, or just wave, or do whatever you want.
Namaste, everybody. Thank you. I've been reading those comments. Are beautiful.
Plenty to come. Stay right there, Sunita. We'll be back. I'll check in with you after the show, so don't go anywhere. Other than that, for everybody else, hooroo!